Good evening. On behalf of the commissioners and staff, I would like to welcome you to the February 25th, 2025 City of Roseville Public Utilities Commission meeting. Excuse me. This 7-member commission is responsible for studying and advising the City Council regarding all utilities owned or operated by the city, including electric, water, wastewater, and solid waste. The Public Utilities Commission advises the City Council regarding planning, rates, public information, cable television franchises, and other matters relating to such enterprises, and may also hear citizen complaints as to operation or rates. The Public Utilities Commission also advises the City Council regarding the activities of such joint powers agencies as the city may be a member of or which relate to such utility enterprises. At this time, I would like to ask that everyone please put your electronic devices on silence. Please note that item 6.3 has been dropped from tonight's agenda and hopefully will be placed on a future agenda. Thank you. All right. Kara, will you please call the roll?
Yes. All right. Commissioner DeLacy?
Here.
Commissioner DeMarchi?
Here.
Commissioner Knox?
Here.
Commissioner Maish has an excused absence. Commissioner Springer? Here. Commissioner Webb? Here. And then Chair Bielski.
Here. All right. Commissioner Allen, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, item 4 on the agenda is public comments. This item is for anyone who would like to address the commission on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. When addressing the commission, please state your first and last name for the record. Anyone? All right. Okay. Item 5.1 is approval of the January 28th, 2025 meeting minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Oh, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
Abstention.
Oh, we have one, yeah, thank you. Next on the agenda is requests and presentations. Item 6.1, Roseville Electric Utility Monthly Update. A report by Chief Operating Officer Sean Matcham summarizing the monthly status of electric utility activities. This is for information. Hi, Sean.
Yes, good evening, Chair Bielski and members of the Commission. Sean Matcham with Roseville Electric. I do have a brief update for the Commission this evening on electric department activities. We have a presentation on the agenda here later tonight on another item as well. So the first thing I'd like to mention is an item that I have mentioned before to the Commission, and I promise this will be the last time I bring it up, and that is with respect to the American Public Power Association's National Line Workers Rodeo, which is going to be held here in just over 4 weeks, March 28th and March 29th here just next month. As you all know, this is a pretty meaningful event. It draws utilities nationwide to Roseville to compete in a line workers rodeo, to exhibit skill, safety, practice, and processes and practices. And so Roseville, that, as you know, competed in these national events for about 15 years, and then we were able to host this event this year. Many of you know Dan Beans, our director, sits on the board of directors for the American Public Power Association, APPA, and has really been vocal to raise the visibility of Roseville to APPA and other utilities nationwide to bring this event to Roseville. So I think we learned late last summer that we were going to be hosting the event. And so work had been slowly advancing to prepare for the event here later next month. But I will tell you the last month and the next few weeks has been tremendously busy for our department, many folks across the city as well. And I think I've mentioned before, it will be hosted at the fairgrounds or the grounds here just down the street. And if you haven't driven by the grounds lately, I will mention that I think the department has, adequately converged on the grounds and installed 150 poles. and other equipment and supplies for the event here. So I just wanted to highlight this for the last time, that the event is upcoming. The main event is on Saturday, March 29th. It will start at around 7:30 in the morning with opening ceremonies. Competition going for most of the morning into early afternoon, and then there's some other events for select folks that stay along for the competition. So we've typically fared well as an organization in this competition, and so we have some teams and people competing again this year, even though there's a lot of focus on the preparation. I just want to say it's been a big effort. I want to thank our team at the department. All divisions really of our department are involved in this preparation in one form or another. And I think they're about to crest the hill on all the work and preparation. And so hopefully in the weeks to come, we get to look ahead to the event, look to enjoy the event and do well. It also, as a reminder, does a lot to help our local businesses here with, we're expecting about 5,000 to 8,000 folks to make their way through the grounds over this weekend. We have, I think right now the latest count I saw is about 60 teams represented by about 50 electric utilities nationwide coming here to Roseville with their families and friends. And then just the local spectators that may want to attend. It's a great opportunity to promote economic development in the city, help local businesses, and then also bring visibility to Roseville in this area of our trade to run the utility. It's also great for recruitment, retention, and sharing best practices and safety practices with those that work in these fields elsewhere in the industry. So this will be the last update on this item unless, this will be the last update. So if you can make it out there, we encourage everyone to make it out there. I'm sure it will be very enjoyable. It will give folks an opportunity to get up and close to the line workers and see the work they do firsthand. And that's not something we typically get to do. They're usually working in secure areas or under emergency conditions. So really get to exhibit the skill set and trade. So with that, I'll stop there. That's APPA National Rodeo. Roseville's hosting. We're real excited. So coming down the wire right now. The second thing I'll mention is also an item that I've discussed before with this commission, and it relates to a ongoing relationship that we have with the California Department of Water Resources. And I think many of you know and recall we did jointly develop and site some peaking plants adjacent or at the Roseville Energy Park about 3.5 years ago with DWR. Late last fall, we took possession of those facilities after a series of agreements and things that we advanced to take advanced ownership of them. And so coming off the heels of that, we did have an opportunity to make a proposal to DWR to relocate some other units that they own and operate to Roseville to basically what we call repower our second power plant, Roseville Power Plant number 2. And so we made a proposal to basically relocate DWR units to Roseville, which would allow us to take out old equipment that's about 40 years old and install what I'll say basically state-of-the-art peaking facilities to make our portfolio more reliable, more cost-effective, and cleaner. And so over the last 6 months, maybe a little longer, we've been negotiating with DWR on what a development and partnership agreement would look like to basically repower Roseville Power Plant number 2. Big value in it for us, and there may be opportunity. There's an opportunity for them to get value out of it as well. And so I just want to say we issued a request for proposals for engineering, procurement, and construction contractor late last year. And we've received a couple bids from qualified candidates that seemed reasonable in terms of their skill set. The estimates, the cost that came in, seemed to present us with a path forward to move down this road with DWR to leverage an existing relationship and try to bring newer, cleaner units to Roseville. So I just wanted to provide a brief update that work's still going on. We're not final. We haven't finalized anything with DWR. We still think there's a a path forward, but I just wanted to mention that we're still in the negotiation phase with DWR. We've had staff do a lot of work prepping for this, getting an RFP out, evaluating bids, and we also got a lot of support from our legal team. So I just wanted to share that this effort, I'd mentioned it before, but this effort continues to go on in the background, and we're remaining optimistic that there is a path forward for us to do this, but yet all the details have not been worked out. And certainly, as we make progress, and if there's something meaningful, if there's a meaningful milestone ahead, we'll certainly come back and present to the commission. If there's something that we have to do or we reach agreement, we certainly be bringing it to council as well, so we'll bring greater visibility to it. But I know this is something I mentioned before. Just want to give a status update that we're still working towards that kind of that project. The last thing I'll mention before answering questions relates to Roseville Energy Park. Still on the generation side, on the resource side, you'll recall that, again, a more update on something you've heard previously. We had a failure of one of our combustion turbines at Roseville Energy Park. It basically took our generating capacity from 160 megawatts, a little over that, to about 80 megawatts, so cut in half. And I know I briefed the commission in some detail on a couple times on this, but I just wanted to provide another status update on this because it is important to us as an organization, and as we prepare for our summer preparedness starts to fall into place for looking ahead for high temps and high loads here in Roseville. So I think the last thing I mentioned is that we were able to go down the path of, or the best path we had available, and that was to go and order parts and have Siemens come to Roseville and replace the parts. And the goal was to have the units back and available, the whole plant back and available by late May before we go into summer. So I just wanted to say that's still the path forward for us. We are, since we last met, and my last update on this, we did execute all the necessary change orders and agreements with Siemens to reserve the critical parts that were in inventory, and they're worldwide. It's not something that's just sitting in one spot. So that was important for us to do so that we preserved our right in line to get access to the limited parts and equipment that they have. So right now, this really for the month of March, we're getting all the materials and parts shipped to Roseville. It'll take about a month. And then late March, early April, we'll have a team from Siemens converge again on Roseville at the Roseville Energy Park, spend about a month reassembling our combustion turbine 2, which was damaged. Right now, parts are scattered all across the yard at Roseville Energy Park. So they will come back and install that, and I think we're very optimistic that it will be all back here certainly by the end of May, maybe even a little earlier. That's important for us because, as you know, we head into the summer. Our single largest generating facility is very important to us in serving the community, managing upward pressure on rates, and hedging market volatility. So the story there is still good. We have put in a claim with our insurance broker, and at this point, we believe the entire cost of the repair effort will be covered by our insurance provider. And I think we ended up, in total, it's about a $7 million expenditure when you look at everything involved. And so that's also good news. We won't get the money right away, but we know or we expect that will be on the horizon here shortly. So we're balancing all that work effort as well, in addition to the efforts to repower our PP2 with a partnership with DWR. So many cases involves all the same team, so our folks are busy, focused on these activities that are very important for us as an organization. And so those are the 3 items that I just wanted to mention before maybe answering any questions on those or any other questions that you may have about what's happening at the department. So I'll stop there and open it up for questions.
Any commissioners have questions of staff?
You mentioned that our last meeting about a tour of the turbine. It was opened up, but now, of course, bad weather hit. It was a mess out of the plant. But is that still in that condition to see, or?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think I may have even seen something on the calendar come across for a tour. So yeah, we're still receptive to bring the commission out. We still have much of the unit disassembled, so it's still a great time to get out there and see the inner workings. And yeah, so I think there's been some email traffic on that, and we're glad to do it. We encourage you all to come out. Yeah, not very often you get to see the turbine
No,
taken apart like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Although the city did file a claim with insurance, was it determined what caused it and who's at fault?
Yeah. No, good question. Not yet. So we did have the insurance broker out there. We did have our insurance or our proponent, they call it the applicant proponent there as well. And I think I mentioned this before. We did retain an engineering firm for forensic engineering on the facility, on the equipment. And I think what I can share, it's not all buttoned up yet, but I do believe we've and the source, the root cause of the issue, I think it's fair to say, as we've learned information over the last several months since this happened late in November, our perspective and understanding of what was the root cause has migrated. I think when we looked at this, we were looking at maybe operationally something went wrong when Siemens took control of the unit. Then it moved to maybe the programming or logic that operated the combustion turbine was off. And that's now since migrated towards what we call the variable frequency drive, which was a major piece of equipment we were installing at the time, could be the source or the root cause of the problem. And so I think without getting ahead of anything, I think we're tuning in that the logic and programming for the variable frequency drive was the source of the issue. And so that's something we're continuing to look at. We need the final report from our root cause analysis. But we've been fully transparent with our insurance broker, our coverage, our broker, and our insurers themselves with our forensic engineer. So we've tried to bring full visibility to this. So I don't rule out there will be some after action kind of decision to be made about liability, and also we'll have to see how the insurance coverage fits into that. But that work is ongoing. I think you've asked me before about this. We don't have it. I don't want to speak too definitively, but that's where we're migrating to. We think it was tied to the new equipment that we installed.
Is it programming by the variable speed?
Yeah. So I won't mention the company, but yeah. So the supplier of the variable frequency drive, which by context looks like a series of lockers of electronics. Think of a big locker of electronics. So there's a company that we buy that from, and they help install it. We're leaning. It's looking like the default programming wasn't the appropriate programming for the type of unit that we're operating. And I think I mentioned this before. The functionality here. What we saw as the problem was think of the VFD, the variable frequency drive, as those old cranks on the cars, right? It just starts getting the motor going before the turbine runs on its own with its own fuel. And so we think what happened here is as the VFD was spinning up the turbine to start, when the turbine started with its own, or was running on its own fuel and momentum, that the variable frequency drive programming didn't let go the turbine to run freely. And so that means you're pushing too much fuel, not enough air into the combustion part of the turbine, causing it to overheat and burn. And that's the indication that we have in terms of looking at the equipment that failed. So that's why when we first learned about this, I think it's fair to say, as we got more and more information, our understanding of the root cause migrated as you come to understand the system. And so we're looking at the default programming in the variable frequency drive as the source of the problem at this point. The good news is we expect it all to be back by the summer, but lessons learned here, important process for us to go through. And Financially, I think if all goes well, it won't be a big hit financially. And also we get business insurance and coverage for this for interruption as well. So all this will be in play for this, and this is why we have the coverages we have.
Okay, any other staff questions, commissioners? All right. All right. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to come forth and address staff on this item? Okay, Sean, thanks so much.
Great. I'm going to stay up here with the next presentation as well.
Okay. All right. Next is item 6.2, low carbon fuel standard low income policy. This is a presentation by Electric Energy Services Account Representative Sarah Kaufman with an overview of the low income definition policy for low carbon fuel standard customer programs. This is an information item. Hi.
Good morning, or good evening, Commissioners. My name is Bill Chaplin. I'm an Electric Economic Development and Partnership Manager. As the long title suggests, we're here to provide an update on a policy. We've been participating in the California Air Resources Board's low LCFS program for quite some time, and we're here to share some information about a policy change for the low-income component of it. And Sarah Kaufman's here to do the presentation, so thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Sarah Kaufman. I'm an Energy Services Account Representative with Roseville Electric Utility, and I manage our customer electric vehicle programs. Today, I'm presenting a proposed low-income definition specific to our LCFS-funded EV programs that, if approved by City Council, will help Roseville Electric meet the LCFS regulatory requirements for our EV program spending. We are proposing a low-income definition policy in effort to expand the reach of our EV program funding that is available through the California Air Resource Board Low Carbon Fuel Standard Program, or LCFS. The proposed policy will expand eligibility for LCFS program funds to more of our low-income customers as well as the greater Roseville community. And it is specific to the characteristics and demographics that make Roseville unique, which will help Roseville Electric reach more customers with LCFS program funds. And I'll go into more details in the following slides. To give you an overview of the California Air Resource Board's Low Carbon Fuel Standard Program, starting at the top, the LCFS sets a carbon intensity benchmark for gasoline, diesel fuel, and their respective substitutes to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The carbon intensity accounts for the complete life cycle GHG emissions for any given fuel. Fuels below the carbon intensity benchmark generate credits, whereas fuels above the carbon intensity benchmark generate deficits. LCFS credits can be traded within the LCFS market to meet compliance obligations. Money that Roseville Electric earns from selling our LCFS credits is used to fund EV projects in Roseville, which allows Roseville Electric customers to benefit from EV programs that are not ratepayer funded. Down further, this first graphic shows that Roseville Electric provides low-carbon electricity to EVs in Roseville, and in turn, receives LCFS credits through an online account. We sell the LCFS credits to a buyer, and we spend the proceeds on customer EV programs. And the second graphic shows that the low-income definition we are proposing today will expand the eligibility of EV program funds to more Roseville Electric customers. Roseville Electric has EV programs for our residential and commercial customers. We offer incentives for EV charging stations, infrastructure, and EVs. The incentives are funded by our participation in CARB's LCFS program. The purpose of the LCFS program is to reduce the carbon intensity of transportation fuels in California. Our EV programs are not funded by ratepayers. We receive LCFS credits for the electricity we provide to EVs in Roseville, sell the credits, and use the proceeds to benefit transportation electrification in Roseville. Our spending must meet LCFS regulatory requirements, including meeting a low-income spending requirement. This low-income spending requirement is the reason for the proposed low-income definition we're bringing forth today. LCFS regulatory requirements limit how LCFS proceeds can be spent. 50% of proceeds must be spent on low income, which includes low-income individuals and low-income communities in Roseville, as defined in the LCFS regulation. In the regulation, there are 0 disadvantaged communities in Roseville. There are 6 low-income communities in Roseville. And low-income individuals are defined by the state income limits for Placer County. The low-income spending definition included in the LCFS regulation does not consider the characteristics and preferences of Roseville Electric customers or transportation electrification gaps in Roseville. However, the regulation allows for the publicly owned utilities governing body to establish its own definition of low income. And this definition will only impact LCFS-funded EV programs. Establishing our own definition of low income for LCFS EV program spending will help Roseville Electric meet LCFS regulatory requirements, expand the reach of LCFS low-income spending to benefit more of our low-income community all throughout Roseville, consider the specific needs of our service territory when designing and implementing EV programs, reduce ambiguity for allowable LCFS low-income spending, and it's important to note that the proposed publicly owned utility low-income definition will be in addition to the low-income spending definitions already in the regulation. First, we propose adding more low-income communities that will be eligible for LCFS EV program funds. In addition to the low-income communities specified by LCFS regulation, we propose using the CalEnviroscreen tool to include census tracts with overall percentile and poverty percentiles greater than 50%. The CalEnviroscreen tool is a screening methodology that can be used to help identify California communities that are disproportionately burdened by multiple sources of pollution. The percentile of census tracts change over time, but as of today, this will add 5 census tracts in Roseville that will be eligible for low-income spending for a total of 9 out of approximately 32 census tracts. This addition will help us to support electrification of fleets and increase access to workplace and public EV charging in areas of Roseville that are more affected by pollution, health, and socioeconomic factors. Additionally, we propose adding all community gathering places, public schools, and multifamily housing complexes with affordable units. This will allow us to expand access to EV charging stations and support EV projects all throughout Roseville, particularly in locations where people spend lengths of time conducive to EV charging. Furthermore, we propose adding nonprofit organizations that support under-resourced individuals or communities, as well as any location identified as a priority location by public agencies representing regional jurisdictions. This will help us to collaborate with and support regional efforts. To inform our proposed low-income definition, we sought input from our income-qualified customers. We emailed a survey to our customers that are on our rate assistance programs or live in a multifamily housing complex with affordable housing units and asked them where they'd like to see EV charging in Roseville. Their responses are supportive of charging in all areas of Roseville and in the locations specified in our proposed definition. And thank you to the Public Utilities Commission for the opportunity today to present this proposed low-income definition specific to our LCFS EV program funds. To summarize, we are proposing a publicly owned utility definition of low income to expand upon the LCFS definitions of low income, which will allow for LCFS low income EV program spending in more areas of Roseville, including more census tracts and more community-based locations. This will facilitate fleet electrification and workplace and public EV charging projects for more of Roseville's residents and businesses that are facing greater barriers to transportation electrification, and support EV projects throughout all of Roseville to improve Roseville's air quality. Our next step is to bring the policy to City Council in the near future to formalize the proposed low-income definition for LCFS EV program funds. We appreciate your time and consideration, and we'll take any questions.
Questions from commission? I have a comment. It's complicated. It's very complicated. My only wariness is that I do hope that if nonprofits are brought in, there is sufficient oversight given, recent news stories, particularly in San Francisco, with efforts with homeless people and nonprofits that supposedly were helping that, didn't have good oversight and, much public money, taxpayer money was lost. So that would be my only comment. But just the overview of it, this is a very, very complex, just looking at the way the real estate market goes, any area, I can think of a few areas that might be, but the way real estate goes, at some point, those census tracts will drop off just through attrition. And then, curious, on the multifamily, the affordable units, are you referring to Section 9 housing, or how does that work?
Whatever qualifies within the city of Roseville as an affordable housing unit. So I think there's several multi-family housing complexes that have a certain number of affordable housing units within them that the city keeps track of. So we have a list of those apartment complexes, and they would be eligible for EV charging stations.
So if I had a fourplex, one of these McKeon fourplexes, I was renting 2 below market and 2 above market, would the 2 below market qualify?
If they have affordable housing units, correct.
And then that's the next question. What's affordable? Anyway, I don't want to belabor it. This is like, wow.
You can find the definition of what Roseville counts as affordable housing. We have a housing website, and it's very specific into factors, and the number changes based on income levels and how many people are living in your home and things like that. So there's a lot of information. If anybody's interested in affordable housing, Roseville, just Google that, and we have a big page on that and all the numbers and everything of if you qualify and what's low, what's very low, what's extremely low, that sort of thing.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to come forward and address this item on the agenda? No one. Thank you both. It was most informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I believe we now have come to the conclusion, since we've postponed 6.3 or not? 6.4, excuse me.
Yep, just a reminder that item 6.3 is dropped from the agenda for tonight.
Okay. 6.4 is the Environmental Utilities Monthly Update. It's a report by Environmental Utilities Business Service Manager Shane Whittington, summarizes the monthly status of environmental utility activities for information. Welcome, Shane.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on the monthly updates for environmental utilities. My name is Shane Whittington. I'm the Business Services Manager for Environmental Utilities, and I'm going to cover a variety of items tonight, but hopefully keep it relatively short. So tonight, my hope is to cover 3 things. I have the preliminary results for rates and connection fees. I will be bringing this back March 25th at the next PUC meeting with a more substantive presentation. So we'll have kind of the preliminary results, but nothing's final at this point, and I'll bring it back at that date. In addition to that, I want to cover 2 conservation events that we have in late March and also in April. And then lastly, I want to highlight one of our CIP projects. So on a high level, our rate setting process really comes down to a balancing exercise. We try to balance the legal requirements with infrastructural requirements and, of course, customer impacts. And the way I like to kind of simplify things is the rate setting process is really a balance between balancing service reliability with service affordability. But in reality, it's actually quite a bit more complicated than that, because we have to consider things like debt coverage and Prop 218 regulations and other regulatory requirements that are applicable to solid waste, wastewater, and water services. On a high level, our estimated revenue adjustments are between 3% and 5%. We're anticipating it to be closer to the 3% level, but there are a couple of things that we're hoping to iron out, and we'll have like I said, a more finalized number come March 25th. And the impact is going to be estimated to be less than $5 on the average residential bill for all three utilities. So $5 spread out between those three utilities. The remaining timeline for these studies include some procedural things related to Prop 218. So we have to send out a mailer 45 days before the public hearing. So planning to send that in March. As previously mentioned, I'll be back March 25th to present to PUC again. And then we're going to do a number of outreach events in April with different stakeholders and just different public meetings. And then come May and June, we'll bring it to council for both the public hearing and the final rate adoption. As far as connection fees are concerned, the increase that we're looking at is about $701 relative to the current fee for an average single-family residence. I picked that because they're administered a little bit differently between the different fees. So just to give you a sense on the development for an average single-family residence, that's what the impact would be. And that comes out to about a 5% increase. Just for frame of reference, this year, when we applied the CCI increase, which is something that's built into our standard fee updates, it was about 3%. And the year before that, it was about 10%. So we feel, as staff, that this is a very fair increase relative to historic construction cost increases. And just as a sidebar, this is something that we have to do every 5 to 8 years, and we are overdue for it, so it's something that we do need to move forward with. And the remaining timeline on this one is, again, I'll bring this back on March 25th to give you the final results, but we'll also be presenting to local building associations to give them a heads up on what's coming. And then in April and May, we'll have the public hearing and the adoption of the fee, which will be implemented on July 1st, 2025. And then on to the fun stuff. So some of the conservation efforts that we have going on is this first one. So the nationwide Wyland National Mayor's Water Challenge. Essentially what this conservation effort is it's an outreach program in coordination with Mayor Bernasconi. And essentially what we're attempting to do is get pledges from our community members to reduce water use. And this is, like I said, a nationwide effort that has had something like 400,000 pledges on an annual basis. And then our annual Fix a Leak Week is scheduled to happen in March 17 to 23rd. And just to, I guess, ground why this is so necessary, I have a couple of statistics on the slide. So the first statistic is the estimated daily water waste for leaving your faucet running while brushing your teeth. That's 8 gallons. The second statistic is the estimated annual water waste for a leaky faucet, 3,000 gallons. And the last statistic I have there is the estimated daily water waste for a running toilet. In addition to just having these events, we'll also be doing some level of social media outreach, and there will also be resources available to the community, namely dye packets, so that you can detect leaks in your toilet. And then the last thing I wanted to spotlight was a project that we have. So our ASR wells 13 and 19, we've received 4 proposals, and we're anticipating construction to begin in July of 2025. And a cool thing about this project, in addition to increasing our water reliability, is it's grant funded. So the project itself costs about $16.5 million, and about half of that is funded by grants. And as far as updates go, I believe that's all I have, and I'm happy to field any questions you may have.
Any questions of the commission? Any chance Cash for Grass would ever come back, or?
You know, I'm probably the wrong person to speak to that, but I can definitely bring it up and see if that's something that makes sense to us right now.
I notice more and more artificial turf going in.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody? Was there any member of the public who would like to come forth and address the commission or staff on this item? Wow. So our next item is board member, commissioner staff reports. Anything from commission staff to report? Any additional reports from staff? Okay, all right. Questions or comments from the commission? All right. Does anyone have any future items they'd like to bring up for future meetings? We're doing good tonight, aren't we? We're doing great. Right. I know you're all eager to come forth and have your papers signed, so I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Come on down.
Low income, we're getting.